Welcome back, dear listeners, to another episode of Morning Musings and Midnight Chats. This was actually meant to be a midnight chat, but Nigel and I were tired.
We didn't quite get around to it. We were up at midnight, for sure.
But we just couldn't make it happen. So, we were having a discussion. As you guys know, we've been a little bit on hiatus with all of our podcasts. So last night, we had a little powwow, and we're deciding, what are we doing? And
what are we doing?
What are we doing? What are you people doing? What is everybody doing in this chaos?
What is anybody doing?
Yeah, in this chaotic time. I don't know. So all these things are coming up as women are about to see possibly a woman rise to power in a way that has never been seen in history. And I get a little emotional when I think about it. It was something to see a female vice president. Yeah, that's cool, right? But I think in the back of everybody's mind, everybody kind of knew that someday that would happen. But to be a president, that's something new. And I think that this is empowering women to come forward about certain feelings and ideas. Mainly a TikTok video that I recently saw. Actually, it was just 2 days ago. This woman who I think in life anyway, she's a little more outspoken. But I think women are feeling it, feeling the shift that is about to occur. And I think this is going to actually affect society as a whole. And maybe that's why so many people are backing MAGA, because they're so, patriarchal. And there's going to be a shift. I believe this, if this happens. But this one gal, and I will link this video in the show notes. Well, actually, Nigel will do it, because Nigel's the tech guru. Yeah, you'll do it. He's the tech guru.
Yes.
Okay. So, but this gal, she's like, her face is so close to the camera, and she's like, you know what? I am not going to be afraid of taking up space anymore. And she said that recently she decided that when she's walking down the street, she's no longer going to move off to the side in order to let a man pass by her if, like, there are two men walking or even one man who's just taking up a lot of space. And she's like, you would not believe the response that I've received now that I've decided if a man is walking in just a little bit in my space and it looks like he's expecting me to move out of the way, she's like, I now double down and I'm ready for the shoulder hit, because I am not moving over anymore. Why should I? Why should any of us?
Why should she?
Why should she? And I got to tell you, I was like, my first response was, you're going to do what? And then I was shocked by my own response. Like, wait a minute. Why am I saying that she should not do this? Or why am I thinking that? Why is my shock such at a level that I can barely speak? My mouth was literally open. Like, what do you mean you're not going to move? My own response bothered me. So I was hooked, and I'm like, all right, well then what happened? And she said that men, they didn't move and they slammed her shoulder over and over again, but she held it. She was ready for it. She would visually see and be prepared for the hit and actually take the offense and hit harder. And there have been not backing down. She's like, I'm acting like a football player now, just to walk down the street and not feel like, oh, I have to move over. Oh, a man's coming. And I'm still like, my reaction inside my head right now is still like, oh my God, I can't believe she's doing this. I just said that to myself in my head as I was saying this. And that bothers me. That bothers me to no extent. This experiment, she said, it's no longer an experiment. I am not going to be a woman that moves aside just because a man is coming down the way. And if they can't have the common courtesy that women have had for them for so long, then I'm not going to either. Why should we? That is her take on this. Like, people, we talk about wanting equal rights, and yet even the simple act of walking down the street is not an equal experience.
Right. Right. Women are supposed to be passive, yielding, right? That's the expectation.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, we have talked about the fact that we don't get equal pay. All right, you can have the degrees, you can have more degrees, you can be more educated than a guy, and you're still an experience. You can even have the work experience to back that education. And a female, I would say 7 times out of 10, which is better than 9, but 7 times out of 10, they will still get paid less. I actually had this experience. I had many years under my belt, and I still got paid less than my counterpart, who was hired at the same time at a call center. So besides the equal pay that everybody knows about, that everybody's been griping about for such a long time, it is even the simple act of walking down the street and being expected to move aside just because we are what? What does that indicate? That we're less? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see what happens when patriarchy is challenged in any way, because unless it is, it's sort of taken for granted, and it's just this invisible, unspoken thing that everyone just understands from the time we're kids, what our expected roles are, and when something like this happens, there's sort of like a chain reaction, it seems, and other women see it and say, wait a minute, you mean I don't have to back down? You mean I have a right to assert my presence? I have a right space to say what I think. I have a right to do this. I have a right to equal pay. I have a right to whatever it is. And so it's just such an invisible thing until there's not, until it's a pushback, and people are like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on. And it's especially as a white man in society, you don't think about it. You just unless there is something that happens like this, you don't really give it much thought.
You don't. And that is the problem.
Right.
The average man, I think we're going to have to do a poll on this. I think this is going to have to turn into a TikTok poll.
I think
when you're walking down the street, what is your, are you conscious of this? And people, men, and I include you in this, it is not something that people think about. Who is going to move out of the way in any given situation? Men, women, it doesn't matter. We don't think about it. But unconsciously, who's more likely to move? We are, not you. And that,
women, right? Yeah,
and that, you know what? That infuriates me. That infuriates me. I'm pissed off. Like, how? I always thought of myself as somebody more assertive.
But yeah, no, if I were a Wall Street executive and I was coming back from my power lunch, I would probably want to just bulldoze anyone out of my way, because that's what you do when you want to assert male domination, patriarchy. You want to hold your space. You don't let people move
right.
you.
Well, okay, like the Donald Trumps in the world.
Yeah, or just
he wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, we could use any number of examples, but you're sure. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that's how in this society, in our society, that's how we're raised. I'm lucky that I wasn't raised like that.
And that's wonderful. And I thank your mom and your dad, but really your mom. Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you for
yes, thanks,
raising
Mom.
your boy right.
You done good. I hope.
Yes, she did.
But that's just it. Like there may be other things that I'm not conscious of, just simply because there haven't been challenges. There haven't been people like pushing me to like, hey, look at this. This is what's happening. This is what you're doing. And you're not even aware of it. There may be things like that. I can't think, I mean,
and I think anybody can fall victim to these societal norms that are just supposed to be. That's just the way it's supposed to be. And the only time that this actually flips, is reversed, is if there's a sinking boat or there's a fire. Get the women and children out first. That is the only time we are put ahead of men.
Right.
Is if there's a dire, deathly, life-threatening situation. And right. I don't think it's right that the only time that we get equal consideration is if we're all about to die. That seems extreme.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it does. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I mean, they're you know, we're just in recent memory we have the, you know, the whole man versus bear discussion. You know, and then there was before, you know, we had the Me Too, you know, so it takes, you know, that first initial pushback against
to make something happen.
Yeah.
I started working in the 90s, and I will say that one of the fields that you would not think that the cooking world in restaurants, you know, hotels, hospitality, you would not consider that cooking would be a male-dominated field. It was because, and I don't really know why, and it's just kind of ironic considering that since the early, you know, 40s, 50s, 60s, women should be in the kitchen. Women, that's a woman's job. But yet we weren't allowed to be...
Cooks, yeah.
Yeah, but we weren't allowed to be that.
But not professionally. You can cook at home, just not professionally.
Yeah. You can't be
place.
A chef. You can't be a chef. But look at that. Even Julia Child, she... Is it Child or Childs? Please forgive me, Julia. Anyway, even she wasn't even allowed. They weren't going to allow her to go to the cooking school in Paris. They weren't going to allow her to do that. She had to fight for that. And I'm now that I think about it, but even, you know, after her, I think she was a pioneer, right? After her, here I was, this young person. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to try and be a chef. And I will say that I had my life threatened once when I was working at Village Inn. And all I did was say to this guy who was a new hire, I had been there 6 months, and this guy comes in and he's making pancakes and they're a mess. They're just slovenly work that I would look at and be like, I don't want that on my plate. I'm not eating that.
Yeah,
and I said, you know, you can flip them much easier if you wait until the pancake bubbles. To that, he took a knife off the magnetic strip, put it to my face, and then slammed it down into the wood. There was like a little wood running board along the grill so we didn't burn ourselves. And he's like, Don't you tell me how to cook. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, I was like, oh, hell no. Hell no. I don't care who you are. You don't fucking put a knife to me. So I went to the manager and I said, this just happened. Deal with it. Now, was it dealt with? All he got was a talking to.
Yeah.
Now, and it was like, are you kidding me? That was a threat. That I consider that a threat to my life. And he should have been fired.
Yeah. Well,
he should have been fired.
Yeah, that's a whole interesting thing too, the way that the attitude of men toward women in positions of authority, you know.
Yeah.
Women police officers or whatever, whoever it might be. You know, if you have, you know, like in you had seniority in your job in this case. You had more experience.
Absolutely.
And there's, you know, there that just speaks to how deep patriarchy runs, you know. Right. People who, no matter what level of experience or authority or seniority you may have as a female, there are going to be men who just say, I'm the man, right? So there's no circumstance in which you have authority over me.
When I think about the times that I've been even walking through Walmart and some man comes bumbling down the aisle. There have been times where I've been the one to move. Like I can see myself actually moving over. And I'm thinking, I'm going to take this experiment on.
Yeah.
As if I wasn't assertive already.
Well, there's so many things that are just happening on the subconscious level, like men and women, just like ways we're supposed to behave.
Yeah.
And until someone brings it to light, until someone says, no, wait, what? Look at this. Look at what's happening.
Yeah, look at this. Why are we... And she did. She made this like cowering movement. And it wasn't exaggerated. That is the movement, the body language that I have seen. Like if you... I people watch. If I'm out and about, I will sit there and I'll just kind of sit back, especially if I'm waiting for Casey in like Lowe's or Home Depot. And I'm just like, sitting in the lawn furniture section. And I'll just watch people. And women do. They do move out of the way. I really have a problem with this. So ladies in the audience.
Hold the line. Stand your ground.
Hold the line. Join me in what?
Carry
embracing
a weapon. No,
our space.
I'm not advocating.
No, oh my God,
violence.
no. No, but let's embrace our space. Let's try this. Let's embrace our own damn space instead of molding ourselves around our male counterparts. I hope you don't find this offensive, Nigel. But this is like yes, you're right, a subconscious thing. And I'm still coming back around to things are about to change in our society. And I'll take it a step further on a global level. Let's face it, and I know you hate this. You hate this. Don't deny it. You've talked about it on your own podcast. You can't stand that the most powerful individual in the world is the United States American president.
Yeah, on the one hand, yes, I want to acknowledge the significance of what this means. And yes, I acknowledge also that it does matter in terms of how people are treated. And obviously, when a racist piece of shit is in office, then racist pieces of shit all over the country are emboldened to behave in shitty ways and aggressive, violent ways. So, yeah, it matters on that level.
Imagine... I mean, there are female leaders in other countries.
Right.
But those other countries they have not risen to where the U.S. is. You know this. We all know this. And never once in all of time of America have we ever seen a female in that position. And I think, this is just my opinion, but I think that the day we elect a woman, and not just any woman, but a minority woman. About to get all teary again. The moment this country elects a female, we are going to see a shift in consciousness that will sound around the world. Just being able to walk down the street and not have to move out of the way of a male counterpart stirs this much. And I'm probably not the only woman who was like, oh my God, yeah, what? Who was not just appalled by even their own reaction, their initial reaction, their knee-jerk reaction to, what do you mean you're not going to move out of the way? If her just running and having an actual chance of being president has this kind of effect where women are becoming conscious of how they cower, how they move over in life, imagine what changes could come in the psyche of women around the world if a female is elected into office. I'm not talking about the politics. I'm talking about the psychological effect and the spiritual effect it's going to have on women everywhere. I'm still my mind is reeling by the whole idea that perhaps even the act of walking down the street, we should not be shrinking ourselves. So, with that in mind, I invite all you ladies out there in the audience to hold your own. Don't back down. Yeah. See what happens.
Be bold. Be the first.
So, I
Demand
will...
more.
Right?
Okay, so I guess that's a wrap for this edition of Morning Musings and Midnight Chats. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for listening to Morning Musings and Midnight Chats, a Javi Media Network presentation. If you have some comments, questions, complaints, or rants of your own to throw at us, by all means hit us up at info@javimedia.net or through our voicemail number 303-731-6104. You can find the Javi Media Network on TikTok and other social media, or on the web at javimedia.net. Javi Media.